What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Crazy Face Uno podcast. I'm your host, Shane McNeely. Just a reminder, Crazy Face Uno is inspiring others to do good and make a difference in our local and global community. And it's an honor for me to introduce my guest today. He's an old friend from the Bethel College days, Alex Gonzalez. Welcome, Alex.
Hey, welcome. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. It's we were just talking before we got going here. It's been a hot minute since we've talked and seen each other.
Yeah. We were just, also talking about just how, 9 years or 10 years even.
Yeah, crazy.
In some aspects, it's really a far time away, man. But it's so fresh. The memories I have of you and the guys, and and just narrowing down that season was a real treat for me last night, going over in my head, and we've gone through and seen and been together. So
yeah, it's crazy. And those like college days, I think it's because I feel this way with, some of my college friends for sure. But you have these like deep-seated, these bonds that you've created with people, and those memories, like, even though they're distant, they're like very close and like close to your heart and close to home. And I think that it makes them feel a little bit more present than, like time itself, which is interesting. But
and the season that I was in, it's almost a different perspective, because I almost felt like a dad, right? So like, here are my kids in the dorm, and they're having all these moments, and real important ones, man, that I'm sure have shaped who you are now.
Absolutely. Yeah, well. You were an RD, resident director at Bethel College, now Bethel University. Yeah. They're moving up in the world. Yeah, which is crazy. And I don't know because I don't think you were ever my resident director. I don't think. Maybe you were. But the girl I was dating at the time, like your wife and you were the resident directors of that like area, and that's kind of how you and I got to know each other, is through that. Yeah.
And just seeing you kind of go through some things, and and just man, you guys just your group, man, just kind of, you really push the limits for and push boundaries, but in a good way. Like like I think you had a different perspective in life and how you approach things that. For me, it was refreshing, man. It was real cool to see your growth. And, I was even though I was in a place of authority over students on campus, man, I learned so much from you guys and from your heart, and it reminded me of my college days when I was wanting to take risks, and dare to,
Yeah, it's crazy because hindsight's always 20/20, you don't think about those things whenever you're like in it. And I won't say that we didn't know we were pushing boundaries. Like, absolutely we knew we were pushing boundaries, but it's just the perspective is so much different, and perspective is so relative, and it's so interesting. Like, that's something I feel like, I don't know if it's learning a lot about, or my eyes are being open to, of I've talked about it on here a few times, but just my own perspective of the words that come out of my mouth, how I sound, how people see, how people perceive. Even like, I talked with my wife yesterday, like last night when we were having dinner. I was like, I don't know how people like perceive what I'm doing here, and like with Crazy Face Uno, like I have no idea. And my perspective compared to the outside world's perspective is something completely different, for me, it's like, man, it is fresh, and I'm figuring things out on the daily of what the heck I'm doing, and the direction I'm going, and having this open-ended, and we'll get into it, I'm sure, but I'm sure that some of the ventures that you've ventured into probably feels the same, but
absolutely, man.
But from the outside perspective, it's so interesting how we don't give each other as much credit as maybe we deserve, or give ourselves as much credit as we deserve sometimes, with the impact and just the things that we're doing. And I think perspective is an interesting thing.
No, it's well said, man. Yeah. And for me, like, I feel the same way. I feel like, I kind of know, somewhat what my goals are, what my aspirations are.
Yeah.
Especially with the ventures that we just recently started, and with my wife and I, and but then we always wonder, man, how are other people taking it? And just,
right.
There's a fine balance of do we let that dictate then how we, move forward, or are we solid in our foundation that we can just push forward with our goal and not let that sway us in any way, and just let the chips fall where they may, right?
Absolutely. So, and I think it's important, I know my goals too, and I know the direction, but there is an element of like you constantly checking back in with that, and how much you let, like you said, like how much you let outside influence or outside perception dictate what you're doing. And I think that, I don't know, as I listen to different books and different podcasts of my own, and that I've listened to that I enjoy, or leaders and people that I seek advice from, I guess, the more it's just stay focused on your goals and like what you're trying to accomplish, and obviously check in and make sure that or for me, it's like making sure what I'm trying to accomplish and my mission and our goal, that everything kind of falls under that umbrella. And then, I mean, it's kind of obviously I'm not income wise, this Crazy Face Uno is not providing an income for me or my family at the moment, but that's a goal of mine at some point in time to, obviously have financially, make this a financially stable, business and, cause and but that can't be my focus. It has to be like what the foundation, and trust the process, and but
and you find when you can move forward in life, right? For anybody, if you can move forward in life with that joy, sticking with that, man, and that's the most important, man. And
absolutely,
hopefully in that joy, other people catch on and they can feel that and they can support you then, it gains traction over time, and sometimes, but continue on, man. It's what a powerful platform you got too, with, words are so powerful, man. And
sure.
Just the thought of kindness and being kind to others, and making an impact and bringing change to the world. I mean, that's huge, man. And I hope that all the listeners reflect on the words that they speak daily, man. It's in the mundane and the ordinary that we have the impact on people,
well said.
At work and in education, wherever we're at, man. At the grocery store, I mean, words have so much power, man. So,
I agree, and I think that that speaks really to like doing good and making a difference, and it's in the simplest things, to your words that you use in the grocery store. I love that. I've used it on here before, just like you walking down the street, if you smile at somebody, like you shared a piece of you with them, and you don't know what that smile of like, man, they recognize me, they saw me, I see you. And I think it's so true. The smallest things can make the biggest impact sometimes, and it's hard to see, and it's not the most glamorous sometimes, but it's important, and it's something to be cognizant of, I think, for sure. Well, Alex, we kind of touched on it. We met at Bethel, the old college days, and I was just telling you, I don't really know much about your life before Bethel. I did see, and I don't know if this was while you were there or afterwards or what, but I know you studied studio art at Bethel. Did you do that before becoming a resident director, or was that?
Yeah. So, I grew up with a passion to draw, and for many reasons, I think drawing for me was a huge part of growing up. I made friends drawing them pictures, I just love to sit in my room and just put on music, man, and I would draw for hours, right? So
yeah, that's awesome.
I was, other than my mom, so let me scale back a little bit. So my mom got a divorce when we were young.
Okay.
So my brother and I, we were born in Puerto Rico, and then we ended up coming with my mom to the States.
Awesome.
She wanted to finish school. So she, she was a teacher out in Puerto Rico. She wanted to come to the States, get her master's, and then teach. And so she did, man. And she did it with 2 boys,
That's awesome.
Yeah. So she kind of paved the way for the thought of school, and just being higher education, but not in a real direct way. Like I had no plans to go to college at all, man, growing up. I was just kind of living the moment. I had my friends, had my group in, and we were just living life day to day. But art was always a key part of that, And so I had a buddy who went to Bethel that was from Chicago.
Cool. And
he said, "Hey, dude, you got to come out here, man." And I was like, "Well, if I go to college and a private college, nonetheless, what am I going to study?" So I looked at everything that they offered, and nothing, man.
Yeah, right.
Nothing but studio art was popping out to me, and the question came like, "Man, do I really want to spend so much money to get an art degree?"
Sure.
And nothing against Bethel, man, but the art degree and the art department was nothing like it is today. There wasn't a lot of money allocated to the arts. It was kind of a much smaller program than like nursing or whatever.
Right.
Probably because it's not as lucrative.
Yeah.
So I did it, man. And, 4 years, and I got my bachelor's in art, and that was a funny feeling because I was like, okay, I got my degree. Now what?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I'm a really good painter. I can't do, like, if you sat down in a chair, man, and I tried to draw you, it would look like Picasso, man. It was just, I'm not a really good portrait drawer or anything like that. So I had myself, some questions and doubts about, even my own skill and my own, and am I good enough to be an artist, per se.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I just how I went into art itself. But that, that whole morphed into the whole teaching,
Yeah.
And I was able to teach art, man, for 3 years prior to becoming a resident director.
Oh, okay. Nice. And was that at the elementary school?
What's that? Yeah, it was elementary school. It was actually, it was K through 8th grade.
Nice.
That was weird because, I told my mom, I'm never going to be a teacher. I've seen all the struggles you've gone through, and just, I definitely don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, man.
Right.
But I was a cashier at Sam's Club, believe it or not.
Nice.
And I had just graduated, man, and I was talking to some lady. She was like, "Oh, you seem like a nice fellow." And I said, "Yeah, I just graduated from Bethel, art degree, And she was like, "Oh, what are you going to do with that?" And I said, "I have no idea." Well, the next lady behind her, man, she came up to me. She said, "I just heard your conversation." She's like, I'm a parent at a private school here in town, and our art teacher just left."
Wow.
And she's like, "Would you consider coming for an interview?" And she's a parent, so she's not even on the board.
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah." So she wrote down the number. Dude, I called, and it was like a Sunday or a Monday. Wednesday, I had the interview, and the whole board was there. It was just so fast, man, that it happened.
Yeah.
And they said, "We've never done this before," but like that night, they said, "We want to offer you the position."
Wow, that's so cool.
We think this is it, for you. And I was like, "Yeah, all right."
I just got chills. Sure, that's such a cool story. Yeah.
And that when I look back and I reflect, was really the start of, just the whole series of things where God just kind of set us in place, man. And we just, it's been nonstop, man, since then, in many regards.
Yeah. That's so cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Just having that moment of that, of just, I guess in some ways, like clarity, like it's where you're supposed to be. And it speaks to what you just said earlier too, of words having so much power, and having just that simple conversation led to the rest of your life in some ways,
Yeah.
Wow. That's really cool.
This cashier, you talk to everybody, man. And
yeah.
So, the fact that my words at that moment, I can't even fathom how different my life would have been without that one conversation with that one lady.
I know.
That that the person, the parent heard behind her, so.
Well, the same is almost for me in some ways, not to drive away from your story here, but
no, go for
I
it.
was, I got involved in wrestling in high school, and I didn't start wrestling until I was a freshman in high school, which is a little bit late start for that. But I would always go home up northern Indiana, kind of near where Bethel is for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I would go and work out at the gym, this local high school. My mom's neighbor, which was like a whole bunch of, there's these group of brothers that lived across the street from my grandparents, and one of them was an assistant wrestling coach, and he was like, "Why don't you just come in and you can work out in our gym, and we can help you out and keep your weight down or whatever." And he was the one that told me, he's like, "You should check out Bethel. They've got a really great wrestling. It's new, but they've got a tough team, and I think you'd fit in really well there." And that was the reason I went and checked out Bethel. That was the only reason, that conversation. I had been there, I had talked with him like a couple times, but it was always just those moments of, "Hey, I'll see you in, next year around this same time," So that was how I found out about Bethel, and, here I am today, and I wouldn't be where I'm at. I wouldn't have ever moved to Minnesota if I hadn't met Sam, and, it's just like, there's purpose to life, and it's just crazy, the small things, the simple conversation, the simple choices that you make, and how they lead you down the rest of your life. And I think that that's really powerful.
For sure, man. It's to think, and it's almost like scary, right? Because one day can make a difference 20 years from now, right? And it's, and you hear that the stereotypical, live like it's your last day, but I mean, man, the impact, unless you're a hermit, right? But even that has consequences.
Yeah, I think so.
Down the line, right? But every, I mean, it's
your decisions have impact.
Really, man, and just and part of my life is I have a drive, man. I have an inner drive that I've always had, and it's I think that stems from earlier on looking for acceptance, amongst friends, amongst family,
right.
So always trying to overdo it to get that. But then, as I've kind of matured and have dealt with those demons, it's been where, I mean, like every day I wake up, man, and there's something new for today, and I and I believe that, man, and so it's, I don't always feel like I end the day like, man, I conquered this day. This was awesome. No, you go through struggles and all that, but it's, of course, there's always a drive in me that has always pushed me to recognize the small, right? And that's kind of been, I feel like what's driven me, man. So
absolutely, that's cool. So you got the teaching job. You worked there. How long did you work there before you jumped over to Bethel, and what was that like path like?
So 3 years, man, and it was like the perfect. I'm all about encouragement. So like to be in a school and have 100, or it was like 200, I think, plus kids. Just I got 30 minutes or 45 minutes actually to encourage them, man, and just art is like the easiest class. You don't. Everyone's a winner, right? So
sure.
You walk in. I had my music going.
It's all about effort in some ways.
Yeah, exactly, man. And and if they gave me effort, man, then there was a place for me to encourage them, right? And say, hey, if you don't feel like drawing today, don't worry about it. Just do something or walk around with me and do this with me. So it was such a good feeling to be in that position. K through 8th, man, was really powerful. So, but being at a private school, after 3 years, man, they lost funding because they had the biggest class graduate.
Wow.
And so they had to cut music and they had to cut art. And so, and I remember the day that we announced it to the parents and we had not an auditorium, just a gathering for everybody. I forget what you call that. Anyway,
it's all good.
And I bawled, man. I was weeping like a little boy, because you give your heart, and
yeah,
you had visions. I had visions of staying there for a long time and shaping, the art program,
yeah,
but it was over, right? It was over just really quickly after 3 years. So
wow.
And again, man, it was another moment where I was like, okay, I have one more check coming. Like that was like a Friday, and then the Monday,
yeah,
I remember thinking, okay, this is it. I got to get like serious about looking. And then Sean Holgren, who was the head of student development at Bethel, leaves this random message. I haven't talked to him in years, and he leaves this random message saying, "Alex, hey, I got your number from so and so. I heard you're in the area. I don't know what you're up to, man, but we're looking for a resident director at Bethel."
I got chills again.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it was a voicemail, like, the old school voicemail. So we pressed the button, and I kept repeating it. I was like, "You got to be kidding me, Lord!"
Yeah.
But it meant, and we knew what it meant. It was like we both have to stop. I was married to Lori at that time.
Yeah.
We have to stop what we're doing. We have to either sell the house or rent it. But we just finished fixing up,
Sure.
And we gotta just do it. But it was such a clear moment that, that's how we started, as resident directors. So,
that's so cool.
So
that's such a cool story.
We said that's right.
Yeah.
So I have plenty more, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. I want to. You just brought up Lori, your wife. How did you two meet?
Mm-hmm. So we met at Bethel, man. She was in choir, and I kind of knew of her just for being in choir, and we just had mutual friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then in second year, got to know her a little bit better, and that's kind of where we connected, and just. It was like a movie, man. Like I hadn't dated for instance, like fifth grade. So no, actually, no, that's not a lie. I dated a little bit in high school, one girl, and then, but it was a short, short little stint there, and then, but I didn't want to mess with dating, man. I was like, you know what? I had seen so much hardship with friends, and I was like, until I know she's the one, I don't even want to mess around.
Yeah.
So. And it was, for the most part, that's how it went, and that there was just a moment where I was like, this is it, man. She's the one.
Yeah.
And I think it's when my mom came to see I was in choir, and she saw a program with her in it, and I remember grabbing Lori's arm, her hand, and it's the first time I grabbed her hand, right? And and I said, hey, would you like to meet my mom? She's right over here. And I walked up to my mom, and my mom met her, typical Puerto Rican, mom. When Lori says, "Oh, I got to go now," very nice to meet you. She grabs me and she, kind of whispers. She's like, "Alex, she's the one." So I had such a feeling about her. I said, "Mom, we're not even dating," But she, that stuck with me, man, and just and it just confirmed over and over, like, yeah, man, she's special, man. She's the one I want to spend the rest of my life with, man. We dated for 6 months, and then I asked her, man, and we got married 6 months later. So it was kind of a fast.
Yeah. But I think that I have a lot of friends that have the time is so relative, and I think that it's less important sometimes than we make it out to be. I think that there is value in time, obviously, and figuring those things out, but everybody's different, and every relationship's different, and what that looks like. And I mean, it's just it's society that puts these like time limits on things sometimes versus like taking each situation independently and what it means to people. So that's cool though.
We kind of want to have a formula for everything, right? Like 5 years. That's the most ideal time to have. No, you're right. It's about the difference. Every relationship is different because you're bringing something different to the table, man.
Right.
Marriage is perfect, man. So.
Well, and even like your mindset of like, I'm not gonna date until I know. And I feel like throughout my life I've been the same way. It's like I don't want to date somebody if I don't see myself with you forever. And it's been that's when I've broken up with people. It's like, I don't see it continuing. So like, I don't want to just keep dating you. Like, what's the point?
Yeah. Yep.
You know, and it's like, I'll date until I don't feel that anymore. And then, all right, well, it's unfortunate. It's nothing. It's literally it's not you, it's me. You know, like legitimately. Like, I feel like that's a legit thing.
I don't know, man. You probably have some listeners that are like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah, right? I know. I know. I just lost some people there.
No,
but
I
it's
hear
okay.
what you're saying for sure.
Yeah.
I agree.
So did you guys get married while you were at Bethel, or was this after?
Yeah, so I went to community college. So before Bethel, man, I did take some art classes, community, just not for even a degree. I wanted to take art classes. So
yeah, that's
I'll
awesome.
take a couple community college classes, and so she was a year, even though we're only 6 months apart in age, she was a year ahead of me. So she had graduated. So it wasn't until after her senior year that summer, she graduated, and then we got married.
Gotcha. Nice.
And then for me, it was, so I was just a year back. So my senior year, I was married. I lived off campus in an apartment with her. And,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we. So she was in school, but she had finished, and she elementary teaching, man. So she knew she had a vision for what she wanted to do, and and she's an awesome teacher, man. She rocks it. So.
That's so cool. So you get to Bethel as the resident director there. I'm assuming you sat down with Sean, and was that just like of course?
It's funny because he met with me and he's like, hey, if you want your wife to come, and just be, so she can kind of see what it's going to entail.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm thinking, no, I need the job, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it entails.
Yeah, right.
But after, again, Lori's so good at talking. And so she, and not in a bad way, they asked her some questions, and they actually at that moment said, man, guys, we have a building, like they were just thinking for me to be an RD. But after Lori and talking to both of us, they said, hey, we have Mangus, Kentucky, which is a boys, / girls dorm. And they said, would you both be interested in being RDs? and that was, like, at the moment, so I was like, sure.
Yeah.
Why not? We're going to do it together, so let's be in it together. Man.
What a cool experience as like a newly married couple, though, too.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, man, we didn't realize how big of a role it plays in the dorms, And so we, in many respects, we didn't feel like we were ready for it.
Yeah.
And as when you're in it, I mean, it's go. So it was really, there wasn't a lot of time to reflect and then adjust, right? It was like, we just got to do it.
Yeah. Well, but like you were even saying with teaching, it's that mentoring aspect of things that you kind of enjoyed, or that, that influence of it, and that speaks very much to, that role as a resident director of it's very much a mentoring role, and just being present and available for students as they're going through life and experiencing, this coming of age type, like a time period of life.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And that, that shapes that shapes you as well. As
absolutely.
You're trying to be available to others, man. Like you can't but grow yourself. And so it was good for our marriage, good for just a whole slew of things that we're now facing, right? So in the future, like just, so we see how that's helped us out. So. And
I remember that's when you and Lori had your first child as well, was at Bethel, or when I was there.
It was.
Which was exciting and fun.
Yep. Yeah. She probably wouldn't say that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'll tell you what, man.
I set you up for that one for sure, but
yeah. It became so much harder. She scaled back. She wasn't an RD at that point.
Okay.
And she worked with the international students, which was such a blessing, man. Like,
Yeah.
So she did part-time working with the internationals, man, and just, you know, Lori grew up in a very conservative, very Dutch community.
Yeah.
And so for her, Bethel was like the most diverse, right? Even though our percentages for diversity was really low while we were there. But it was such a diverse place for her to, and so when she was able to work with the internationals, man, her heart came alive in other ways that just being a resident director didn't. Like, she really enjoyed each of the students and the different perspectives that they came with, and
sure.
You know, it's just all the different cultures that were just available to her, and interacting with those was, yeah, such a good growing experience for her, man. She enjoyed that a lot.
That's awesome.
So, but having a kid, dude, in the dorm, when you have to go next door because the boys are bouncing the soccer ball on the wall at 2 a.m, and you walk in and they're just playing video games, I'm like, guys, you're killing me here. My wife's gonna kill me, you know? Just don't knock the ball on the wall. And
yeah. Oh, you know? Sorry.
So, yeah. You know, so it became clear that it was like, okay, this is the end of our season here. You know?
Yeah.
And so
overall, how would you summarize your experience at Bethel?
Oh, there was it's like a love-hate, man.
Yeah.
You know, and hate's a strong word, but I say that because, you know, we had the mentoring aspect, which was that was the gold, right? That was the reason we were in it for.
The purpose,
conversations, purpose, you know. The other side of that was, you know, RDs would take second jobs, and for me, that was a world that, you know, public speaking, you know, I was in charge of the kind of our diversity programming that we had. And so it was, you know, that was a very tough season for me, you know, for the professional side, you know, where I had to, like, really be professional when I spoke and have things in order. And so that was very challenging for me, because a lot of my energy, you know, in life, you know, I typically focus on relationships, people. Like, that's if I can spend 99% of my energy on that, awesome, you know?
Yeah.
So having to break that apart and that focus was challenging. And so that part I didn't like so much.
I can feel that. And I know that I know several people that I graduated with, or, you know, people that I were friends with that have been RDs as well, and at Bethel. And I know that, the financial situation, unfortunately, is a struggle, or probably the hardest part. And I've heard that from other people love the job, love doing what they do, but financially it's a struggle, which, man, aren't finances just the worst? Just in life in general. Like, we're so driven by money, unfortunately, and it sucks, because there's so much good and so much that could take place in the world if we didn't have to focus and didn't have to, like, put so much attention on that.
Yeah, I know, it's sad, man. And it permeates. I mean,
it's everywhere. Yeah. It's everything.
It's everywhere. Man.
It's not. It's just unfortunately, it's just a fact of life. It's just a matter of life. But that's the interesting part, I think, of, you know, we've got this trend nowadays. We always talk about, like, well, what do you want to do? Like, follow your passions, follow your things, and I'm all about that, but it takes a lot of work to do that. And you know, I was reading. I try to start my days reading a book or listening. I use Audible and listening to a book. And so this morning there was this one little piece that's stuck with me and stuck in my head. Actually, he was talking about how happiness doesn't always mean what's good for you, and like, you know, candy, sugar makes kids happy, but you don't just keep feeding them sugar. You also have to give them, like, sustenance, you know? And that's great. You know, that was one of the bits that stuck with me this morning, and it's the same with like life in general. just because something makes you happy doesn't mean it's always what's best for you or what's good for you. And it's finding a balance and mixing that happiness in with the balance of life. But
if you don't mind me asking me, so like, how hard was it for you to decide, okay, I'm going to go full on with this, even with the whole financial, where it's not lucrative, right? Or it doesn't start producing income.
Yeah.
So how'd you find that courage, man, to kind of step out and do that?
I'm still finding that courage. It's timing, to be completely honest. I started this at the end of the school year last year. My wife and I had been in this process of like knowing we were moving to Florida. So, she's kicking ass at her job and she's amazing. And, she got this promotion and it's brought us to Florida. And, it's forming every day. And not in like a haphazard way, but like it started with an idea, like everything, and this idea just kind of continued to grow. And I've been thinking about stuff like this for a long time. And if anybody that's been close to me has known that like I've craved this creative control. I've always wanted to like own my own business. I've gone from, man, I want to own a restaurant to, I don't think that's what I want to do, to I was even talking to my wife like last year. I'm like, man, I still think this would be fun, but like how fun would it be to just have like a little like grocery store, just a small little grocery store, like a little like corner shop. Like that'd be awesome. Just like run and manage that. And I still think it would be fun. Like, I don't know, like it didn't, in some ways it's like, I don't even care what it is. I just want to be able to have that creative control in some ways. But a thing that's always been a core value of mine and, my track record is I want to give back. I want to help people. I want my life to have purpose and value. And, it's been finding that purpose and value mixed in with creative control. And so, timing was honestly everything. So it was about, I don't know, a month before school got out when I'm going to buy this domain name and I'm going to see what happens with this. And never really, the idea was never to make this my full-time gig. It was just like, anybody can make a video and throw some stuff up there and like, let's just do fun videos and, see if help people along the way. And, if I can get money coming in, then I can help. And then it was like, oh, I can do this. And it just kind of started to shape its way. And, upon moving here and kind of seeing, it gained a little traction and kind of seeing the possibilities and the potential. And so, as of right now, this is what I'm doing full time. And financially, my wife and I, we actually sat down last night and kind of dug through our finances of like, all right, is this something we can do? And is this manageable? How can we make this work? How can we create a little budget for ourselves where I can pursue this dream, this passion of mine and see if it sticks and see if it's something we can make work. And it's going to be a ongoing thing. Again, like it's the time being, if we could check in a week and be like, hey, this isn't going to work, but yeah, I mean.
And how does your wife like, does she have any reservations? Like, I'm the same way where I have 1,000 ideas a day. Like,
oh yeah, I'm with you.
And I crave that creative, creative, just like you.
Yeah, creative control.
I'm an entrepreneur. I just so, but my wife is very practical. She's very, I'm the artistic one. She's like the
mine is.
She's got her stuff together, man.
Yeah.
So like, so she doesn't hold me back. She refines what, where I can be in the clouds. She helps me to kind of navigate and say, well, is this practical? Is this, and then I help her then to say, well, babe, it might not be practical, but man, look at the possibility.
Yeah.
Like that. So
I know.
I push her to kind of say, oh, but what about,
Yeah.
So how does your wife play into that with this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she, just like your wife, she shapes that conversation a lot, of me. Like I definitely, I throw out a lot of stuff and a lot of ideas, and she's one to hear it embrace it. She supports me 100%. You know,
Awesome.
she supports this idea. She supports my drive. I think one of the biggest reasons, I don't know, I can't speak for her completely, but I think that, you know, she's made a lot of comments of just seeing how the changes in my life that I've made. I mean, she's mentioned it of like, the podcast is therapeutic for you in some ways, you know, and, you know, it's more than just, you know, a business. It's also a therapy in a sense of being able to reconnect with friends and talk. And I was talking with another person that I'm going to have on next week, and we were just talking about how what other you know avenue form you don't sit down and talk with even your closest friends, you know, for an hour and a half about life. Like I learned stuff about my own family, like sitting down with my mom and my dad and my grandma and, you know, my cousin. Like I learned things about them that I had no idea about. You just don't create this environment. This environment doesn't exist if you don't create it, you know? And it's awkward. It's not like you're going to sit down with your best friend and be like, hey, let's talk for an hour and a half. Like, tell me about your life, you know? So it's been cool to like, you know, tell people's story and be able to like, just talk about life and what's going on. Yeah, she really does shape, you know, the ideas. It's like, sounds like what you were saying, you know, I can throw out I got that entrepreneurial spirit and, wanting to, you know, create and do. And, sometimes those ideas are really rough around the edges and it's like, that's a little lofty, you know, like let's hone things in, let's stay focused, you know? And, but yeah, she supports me 100%, and, you know, it's constantly checking in, and I think she knows how important this is to me. And I think that that's like, something that is important to her as well. But I'll tell you, dude, I mean, it's humbling. And one of the hardest things is to actually accept especially the financial burden. I've really struggled with that. I've talked about it on here, but I really struggle with not being a provider. And it's probably the hardest part of this for me. This part's easy, right? You know, and the creative process, and that's easy, but stepping back and being like, I'm a control freak in a lot of ways, and so like I'm not in control. And like, right. Thanks, honey, for, you know, providing and supporting our family and me. And there's not a better time in our life, I don't think, that this would be, you know, we don't have 2 kids like you know, and what better chance and what better time to like step out and to take a risk in some ways. But yeah, that's been the hardest thing for me, is humbling myself to be like, I don't have money coming in at the moment. And to allow her to just provide.
And it's crazy, right? Because I think if we were to take a survey on wives, right?
Yeah.
And ask the majority of the wives, let's say in the U.S., would they rather have a husband that works 60 hours, 70 hours, and provides good money for the family, or would you rather have, you know, a husband who supports you emotionally, or is there present of mind? You know, I would hope that the majority would say the present of mind. Now, I'm not excluding those who work 60 or 70 hours.
Sure.
You know, good men that also provide that. You know, but you know, I mean, I think
you're right. I mean, I think
it's a burden, man. You know, but it's one of, I think it's a self-placed one where unless it's causing ripples in your marriage because she's stressed out about the finances.
Yeah.
You know, then yeah, man, and I think it's okay, man, to step in and say, you know, kind of like she said, that you're kind of, this is therapeutic for you, man, but and it's benefiting her in many ways in your family. You know what I mean? Like that's so you are providing. It's just not
right.
You know, the self-imposed the financial burden. Because I have felt that all throughout our marriage, man. Lori taught, and she had a stable teaching. Yeah. You know, we did the RD thing, which was very low pay, and teaching itself is very low pay.
Right.
She she always had a check way bigger than mine. When I first when I taught art, man, at that private school, I think the contract was for $12,400 a year. It was basically free.
Yeah.
They paid for the car that I drove.
Right.
And had a gas leak. Like
yeah, I was gonna say, and you cross your fingers. Yeah, you cross your fingers that it didn't break down. Right, I get it.
Yeah. Drive through. Please don't smoke in front of me. You're gonna blow up my car. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah. So I've always had that. I want to get to a place financially where I'm beating her.
Yeah.
I'm making more than she is, so that she can not have pressure to provide. Right.
Right.
And for many years, man, that was part of my drive as well. Like, man, come on, Lord, please, just
yeah. And money's never been like a driving force for me. I mean, it's like we just talked about, like it's always been there. Like I've done a lot of things because of money. But like, honestly, like I've never worked the most lucrative jobs in the world, and I've never made a lot of money in my life. And even with this, like, I'm not trying to like make it big with this. I'm just trying to be able to, offset our income a little bit and, have a good life. And I want to have this platform, I want this to be a philanthropic. I want to be able to have money coming in, support my family, and then give the rest away. Like I don't, it's not for me. I want to give it away. That's what I want this to be. And, that's great, it's going to take time and it's got to take patience, but, I'm hopeful. I'm going to keep, I've got that drive like you were talking about of, is it to make the money? No, it's the drive to continue to see where this goes. I've had some really awesome feedback from, friends and family and people in my life about this. And I feel lost a lot just because it's hard. I'm in this alone. And, in some ways, my wife, and I've got people I can ask questions to, and, but it's not as easy as that, it's not as easy as like, well, you've got people you can talk to. It's hard. And, continually going back to the drawing board and one day at a time, like taking the moments to hone that and figure out, like, sometimes it's priority, like what's the biggest priority, and there's 1,000 things I could do, but what's the biggest one, and what's going to be the right decision, and kind of navigating through that that tunnel. But I mean,
I commend you, man, because that's the right purpose, man, and that's the your goals are spot on, man, and
thank you.
It's continue on, man, because everything else will take care of itself, man. The financial, you just got to trust, man, because you're doing what's right. It's you got to be able to sleep at night.
Well,
heart, man,
and at the end of the day, I mean, if this doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I mean, we won't be any worse off than we are right now. I can tell you that, I mean, so that's the thing. It's, if I got to go get a job and, figure things out and then I'll do that. Like, that's not even a question, I'm not afraid to work. I'm not afraid to like get my hands dirty. I'm not afraid to, make sacrifices. It's just, this is the season of our life that I'm in this opportunity, and I have this opportunity to chase something and to see what happens. And I'm committed to that. And, I'm going to follow this as far as I can. So we'll see what takes place.
You talked about kind of a confirmation, right? When your wife supports you.
Yeah.
That's such for me, that was, so I taught, right? And then, I went back to teaching, after RDs, at the RD. I went and I did for 2 years. I did online. I got my degree for teaching, K through 6th grade. And so it was 2 years of going to bed at 3 a.m.
All while
I was teaching art at a public school, So it was a crazy 2 years, man. But, I taught for 3 years after that. I had my daughter, my oldest, in my classroom, third grade, 2 years ago. And that was the last year I taught, right? So I started my own business with construction.
Yeah, which is awesome.
But the whole construction business came with two confirmations, right? It was, I was praying, man, and again, dude.
Yeah.
I said, I was teaching, man, and I was doing construction it was like 70 hours a week the last 2 months of school. I was going, waking up at 6, teaching, day, having dinner, and then I was working at a building that had flooded and restoring the whole building until like 1 or 2 in the morning, man. And it was like that for the last 2 months of school. And I said, Lord, I can't, this is too much. Like, I can't do both. But we were check to check, man. We were like scraping by with 2 teacher salaries.
And that's stressful. It's a stress that, I not to cut you off, but like, in a lot of ways, it'd be a lot easier if I wasn't doing this, Would I be as happy? That's the question mark, right? Like, probably not.
Yeah.
But exactly. Financially and like those stressors would be completely eliminated. Like we can live a good life with my wife's salary right now and what's coming in but there's things you still give up and that we both are giving up because of the decisions that our family we have made together. And that's the thing of like, I've the last several years, I've worked in special education, so not even as a teacher, so I'm not making the teacher salary, but I've been receiving for the last 3 years, I believe, maybe even longer than that, at least 3 years. At the end of the year, come tax time, I receive about 5 or 6 W-2s, and it's just, it's that grind, you find, you got to find these little nuggets. And it's not that I'm making a lot, but it's like, somebody brings me in and I work an event for, 2 weeks and I get this chunk of money. And then I've got this part-time job and I'm doing, I'll do this little gig and it's doing what's necessary to make the life that you want and get to where you want to go. And, it's those sacrifices, and not that there's tons of people in the world that are doing the exact same thing. It's not a pat me on the back. It's that's what life,
no, for sure.
That's life, you make those sacrifices and you do what's necessary for your family, and you scrape by and you get by and you look back and you go, how did we do that? And you go on to the next year and you're like, all right, here we go again. So
that's for sure, man. I agree with you, man. So that was kind of that was us for a season again, and that summer, man, I said, what if I just did construction?
Yeah.
And similar to how you brought it up, you guys talked about it, and we talked about it as a couple, and it was scary, man. And it was like, can I do this? Like, this is like, all of me was like, but now we're going to go back to where I'm not making any money, or I'm just working crazy hours, and
the what ifs sneak in.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And I prayed, man. I said, God, the only way I am going to not teach next fall, is if you bring somebody that's going to say, I want to invest in homes, and let's flip homes, And at that moment, that's what I thought I wanted to do,
Yeah.
Dude, 3 days later, a gentleman from our church, older guy, says, hey, I got some work at my house I want you to do. Would you mind having coffee? And I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. That's cool. I'm excited to talk to him. He's a kind of older gentleman, and so he's really wise, man. And just love to talk to him, and here's his life story. And so we sit down for about an hour. Then he tails the conversation with, Alex, okay, so here's another thing. I just cashed out my 401k, and I'm looking for someone to invest homes with. It was almost the exact words that I prayed, brother.
Yeah. And chills again, dude. I got chills
coffee, again. I took a sip of coffee and I said, all right. And I just laughed and I said, you gotta be kidding me. But as clear as that confirmation was for me, I didn't feel peace, man. I was like, okay, Lord, this is like, okay, you can't have, write it on the wall because, you know what I mean?
Yeah, too good to be true. Right? And someone, yeah.
Yeah. And I had gotten a text from Lori a few days after, and it was like, babe, I think you should do this. I support you. And it was like a giant freight ship. It just like came off my shoulders, right?
Yeah.
And I needed that confirmation from my wife and the Lord knew it, man, and I needed that to be the final, the final piece of it. And it was instant, man. I called my principal, and he was on board with it. He's like, Alex, dude, he's like, you're done. Go for it. Like, if you feel called to do this, go for it, man. Don't even sweat it. You can always come back to teaching, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that started, the whole construction venture, man. And it's literally been nonstop, man. The days that I feel like, okay, Lord, what are we going to do for the next month? I'll get like 2 phone calls or like a phone call. Hey, do you do floors? Or,
yeah, that's awesome.
It's been nonstop, man. So it's a daily trust, and I'm terrified every week, bro. But it's
right.
But it's a healthy one, It really forces me to rely, and trust, So
yeah, and then and to find that drive. I mean, it's you. I think. I talked about this being a humbling experience for me, financially, but it's also humbling. It's easy to sit back when you have, a job or whatever and talk about the dreams and to dream about it. And to think that you've got all the answers and you've got all this figured out. But, I guess I touched on it a little bit. Sometimes I just feel lost in this adventure. Yesterday was hard. It was a hard day, actually. I just was like, I don't even know where to start. That overwhelming feeling sometimes. And it's just that humbling thing of like, all right, take a deep breath, one foot in front of the other, of like, what's the most important thing for you to do right now. And, you can either be paralyzed or you can take that step forward. And that humbling experience of just like opening yourself up and presenting yourself and being like, all right, here I am. Like, let's go, And I can totally resonate with that and it's a matter of, I feel responsible, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but like, I feel very responsible with my time, that I have a responsibility to make the most of this time that I have. This could last a week, this could last a month, this could last a year. But if I'm not responsible with the time that my wife allows me in a lot of ways, and to do this, then I'm wasting my own opportunity. Like, this is what I want. Yeah. So like, I need to be the best steward of my time, the best steward of what I'm doing. Just an FYI, I'm sure, I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a little storm happening outside here. So it's starting to rain a little bit. We got a little thunder, but it'll be a little ambiance for the podcast.
I'm just glad my dog hasn't barked. He's like right next to me. And
mine's underneath my chair right now. He doesn't like storms very much. So.
With what you said, man, that kind of prompted, like, I've been like thinking about the life of suffering, right? And there's many different levels of that, compared to a life of complacency, right? Or just like, when I think about, in my perspective, when I think about how wealth can be such a stumbling block for many people, and probably for me, and I think if early on, if we got into situations where we were, we're making, bank, I don't know if I would be as grounded as a person as I am today, right? Because like you said, the grind can really, and it's, through the daily suffering, and again,
builds character.
What's suffering to me, you might not be suffering to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
But how that has shaped who I am, and as much as I look back and like, oh man, I can't believe we were, I'm humbled by, thank you, Lord, because that situation, man, it was like a fire, man, and it just helped shape who I am, and it really showed deep down what I can take, right?
Yeah.
And so I would take that, and I would take that over living complacent.
Yeah.
Just like where everything's the same every day, dude. Yeah, I can't, man.
I can't either.
That would kill my spirit, man. It would kill my soul, man.
I can't. And that's part of why I mean, I'm assuming that Lori knows that about you, but I mean, my wife knows that about me. She's like, no, you can't just do that. Like, that's not who you are. Yeah. Like, that's like a nail in the coffin for you. Like, I'm like, it is. Like, it's like, woof. Like, I'll do it if I have to. And I have, I have done that.
Yep.
But what a blessing my wife is in my life, and, just what I've been provided. And it's character building for sure. These different challenges and struggles. And we can look back. I mean, even right now, we can both look back, I'm sure, I can look back on my life and look back on different times and places, and, talking from Bethel College days to now. I mean, shoot, to high school days to, growing up and whatever. And there's different struggles, and everybody's struggle is different. Everybody has a struggle. Everybody's got different, demons that we're fighting with. And, but those are, we've talked about it. There's these like decisions, these thoughts, these things, these conversations that we've had that have shaped and kind of molded us into the people that we are today, and allow us to, just be who we are. And I think if we can keep that perspective of, again, it's that like one foot in front of the other, and just keep moving, and regardless of what happens, whether it's failure or success, they both shape who you are, and it's what you make of those moments. And speaking of that, I mean, here comes the next part of your life in some ways, right? The Maple House.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How did explain this to us? And I know that I know the backstory, and I can feel it kind of working up to it. But how did this come about, and what was this experience like, and how did we get to the Maple House?
Yeah. So I quit. I quit teaching. I did renovations for the last year and a half, and it's funny, man, because my parents, they were still in Chicago. So my mom remarried when we were younger, stepdad, and so they've been living in Chicago. I have a brother in Chicago, and so I was trying to get my parents to move out here just to be closer. Yeah. And I was randomly on Facebook, just looking at different sales for tools, and this lady had posted. It was like 3 minutes ago, right? I said on the Facebook post, she said, "I'm looking to sell my house," and then she kind of described it, and she put like 3 or 4 pictures. It was right downtown, Middlebury, and I was like, "Oh, cool." So I just sent her a little note, "Hey, can I take a look at it? My parents are looking to move to Chicago, and or from Chicago," and she said, "Yeah." So a week later, my parents drove up, and they took a look at this property, and we have a main house. There's an in-ground pool in the middle of the property, and then there's a guest in, like a converted garage into a real nice little apartment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is perfect, man. They can live in the main house, rent out the little one, no mortgage.
Right. Yeah.
My
exactly.
Entrepreneur, right?
Yeah. That's where my head's
so
at.
We take a look at it, and my mom's just like, she's like, "Oh no, this is too much work for us, Alex." And and it's the previous owner had done a really good job decorating, but it was very country, very country cottage, Amish type, things that you would find in local bed and breakfasts, and gorgeous in its own right. But it just wasn't my mom's style or our style really.
Sure.
But so they said no. But I remember Lori had come for the first time when we looked at it, and dude, like I had like again 1,000 ideas of what this property could be, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm even thinking we'll sell our place and live here and have no mortgage. Cool. And then that just we just talked about it, and we said, let's try and get it, and this is me talking, now mind you, we've been check to check for all of our existence in marriage.
Right.
Like it's,
yeah,
we've gotten down to like $14 and we don't have another check for 2 weeks. Like it's,
yep,
it's been very dire. Like, okay, rice and bean girls, like,
yeah,
yeah, we need rice and beans again, stop eating now, like,
yeah.
But we bought our house. We have a little log cabin, man, and it's gorgeous setting, but it needs a lot of work. But we got it for a great price during the recession.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's get it appraised and see if we can pull equity out. It was almost to the dollar, Shane, of the equity that we could pull out from it.
Wow.
What it would cost as a down payment to get this house,
Yeah.
and just to get the house, not even to renovate it. And so we said, let's try it. So we talked to 3 banks, or 2 banks. They said, no way.
Yeah.
We even talked to a private investor from our church, and they kind of talked about it, and they ended up coming with an answer no. And as when you throw out ideas, you kind of, sometimes you just got to step out there in action and faith and steps. And,
Yep.
Doors will close when they need to, man.
Yep.
And so I was at the last leg, and I was like, okay, this is the last door. But man, everything inside of me was like,
yeah,
fighting it, man.
Yeah.
And I, when I have those, I don't know if it's just me, it could just be me. Like, no, I'm not going to give up. Or it's something where it's like,
is it being stubborn, or is it like following your gut
calling, right?
And your calling? Yeah.
Yep. And so I had a phone number for a loan officer that I had gotten a card from, and I said, I'm going to try and call him. So I called his bank. He's not there today, but the vice president for the commercial side was there, and he was filling in for him. He's like, yeah, I can meet with you.
Yeah.
And ended up being that this guy offered us a loan to do it, and he's like, in the residential side, if you would have talked to so-and-so, he probably would have said no. He said, but I'm glad I heard your story. You got a business plan.
Yeah.
Let's do it. He's like, I don't think anybody should be punished because I didn't have W-2 since I started my own business.
Right. Which is the difficult part of that side of things. So I had my real estate license, and I worked with some investor, real estate agent who owned a decent portfolio of investment property. And that was always the thing. Whenever he went back to the banks, they always wanted this like long history of financial, like just showing, right? And it's just quite the mud to trudge through. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. And I tell you what, man, and like you talked about timing, this guy, so one of the board members of that bank last year, her daughter tried to open up, do some business, and they denied her, right?
Wow.
And so the board, so that lady at the start of this year reamed the rest of the board and the loan officers and all the banks, execs, right? And she said, here we are, and then last place, investing in our community here in Middlebury.
Yeah.
We don't have any blah, blah, blah. And I feel like that set the stage for, and the guy, his name is Jordan.
Yeah.
That left an impression on him, right?
Right.
And so I think that connection was kind of the driving, like, oh, here's an opportunity to invest
into
in
the
our
community. Yeah.
I'm going to give you a chance, right? And so,
wow.
So we got the loan, and then that started 6 months of nonstop renovations. I hate asking for money. And so
I'm with you.
We had talked for like a week about maybe just trying to GoFundMe.
Sure.
And I kid you not, man, it was again to the dollar of what we needed for the time to get all the furnishings and everything but like 2 rugs. Was from Craigslist, man, from Chicago. I mean, we got all the furnishings from my mom waking up at 4 a.m. in Chicago and saying, Alex, look, I found the rug for, or a table for $100 or $50, so,
Yeah.
and they hustled, man, and that helped us out, and
Yeah.
I'm forever grateful for that time, so.
Yeah.
So now we're open. We opened the doors late June, and
Awesome.
we've had so many people book it, man, and
Yeah.
it hasn't stopped,
What was and what is the dream with the Maple House? Like what was your business plan in a sense of what did you want to do with it?
People, man,
Yeah.
and we see how being resident directors kind of helped us with this. Like we have met and have had a desire to of hospitality to serve, all of our life, man, and this was a business that we can not only shape creatively, right, with the marketing and the design part of it, but then for it to have such a what do you call it? An impact, even the space, right? So you go into a space, and if it's decorated a certain way, you can relax in it. You can enjoy it. You can be inspired by it, and so to be able to, in all facets, serve people in that way for a short period of time, even, and just make an impact and encourage, and that was our goal, man, and it continues to be our goal. Like we met people from Chicago already, from Michigan, Ohio, and to even from cleaning the toilets, man, we take pride in I fold the corner of the toilet paper just to make it so they walk in and they're like, oh, that's nice, just having the whole mindset of blessing somebody, man. That's it. Like that's our goal. We have no other business plan.
Yeah,
our
that's
goal,
awesome.
other than that, Now we want it to sustain itself at some point, and maybe in the future, where Lori can take over and do that full time, right?
Yeah,
where we can sustain financially, but right now it's just covering the mortgage.
So people that are listening, or if people were to hear, where can people find? And is it called simply the Maple House?
So it's actually the Maple House and Guest Inn, and you can if you go to Airbnb, and you type in Middlebury, Indiana.
Yep.
And you'll see a whole list of Airbnbs. So we're kind of under their umbrella.
Okay.
And then you just type in the Maple House, or we have to do two separate listings, or the Guest Inn at the Maple House. Then you'll find the two.
And so how many bedrooms, how many people can it host and hold?
It's funny. We have, I would say right now, about 10 in the main house comfortably, right? But I'm renovating the back room right now, so we'll have about 12 that can fit.
Yeah.
And then the back house, the Guest Inn, is really ideal for a couple, right? Or someone who just wants to come out and enjoy some time alone.
Sure.
So two, so.
Yeah.
But it'll have 4 bedrooms. It has 3 bedrooms or 3 baths in the main house, man, and it's and then the guest house has everything, bathroom, kitchen, full kitchen, living room, and then a bedroom. So.
Well, and you guys have an Instagram, you have Facebook. So if you're listening, go check that out and follow. Check out the pictures. The pictures are beautiful.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, I mean, the place is gorgeous. So you've done a fantastic job on this house. I mean, it looks, like you said, you're talking about the ambiance and just like the little details. Like you can tell you've taken so much time and care into the details, and it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful place.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you, brother.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
I would love to people to follow you and check that out. It's a really great place from the pictures that I've seen. I got to check it out one of these days when I'm in the area.
I was going to say, if you ever want to stay, man, we'd love to host you, man. So that would be
cool.
Yeah, it's been a real treat. So
awesome.
So that's kind of where we're at, man. We're just now I'm doing construction and cleaning.
Yeah.
And just balancing that out, and it's a bit crazy right now, but it's it's the grind, man, and when you can hustle for something that you believe in.
Absolutely.
It's easier,
It's a lot more work than people think. My wife and I, we rented out a couple rooms in our house, just like shared space. An Airbnb in Minnesota. So we kept our house. in Minnesota. So when we moved here, and we're renting that out, kind of the same concept of like, we're not really cash flowing a lot, but it pays for the mortgage, and it's an investment. And we've talked about someday if we have kids and wanting to potentially move back, and we'll see where life takes us, when that time comes. But it's just one of those things that when we were living there, we did it for a few months, and it's lucrative, but it's a lot of more work than you think. Where I was working, my wife's working, so it's like you come home, you have to strip the sheets, and you've got people every couple days coming in and out. You've got to do all the laundry. You've got to make sure your house is clean, and it's a lot more work than people realize. So I commend you with that hustle for sure. It's a lot of work.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah. The biggest hustle has been the pool. We never had an in-ground pool, so like,
oh, I'm sure
that learning curve, man, and but it's, again, man, it's all worth it when you can, we sometimes get to see the people and greet them at the door.
Yeah.
But it's keyless entry, so they can come in whenever they need to.
Yeah.
But the times that we've been there, and even from the reviews that they've left, it's just it's so complimentary, man, and just it's a good feeling to know that they're gonna be in a space that, man, all they have to do is just chill and spend time with family and the loved ones and friends, and that brings us so much joy.
Yeah. Well, and even the path to get to where it is now, it's almost confirmation of those things that led you, that gut feeling, that passion, that drive that you had, and it gives you almost this confirmation of like, I can trust that, and I can keep going back to that well, and sending up my prayers, and look, like, this is what came of that. And like, I think that's beautiful, because sometimes it's just trusting your own self is hard, of like, well, I love the story of you didn't give up. The amount of times that you said, you ran into basically a roadblock, and you're like, well, we'll go around it, and we'll keep going until you can't anymore. And I love that. So many stories are the same way, and you just can't quit in the first no and the first thing, and kind of follow in that gut. That's beautiful. I'm really excited for you. I'm excited for your family. I think you've got a good thing going here, and I'm excited to see what's next for you.
Thank you, man. And likewise, man. I'll keep you in our thoughts and prayers, man. And just
thank you
as you kind of navigate through this, and you and your wife, man. Man. We don't have time, right? We don't have time to mess around with, man. And
no.
But we also need time and to make time to reflect on our lives and what's working and what's not. And right now, you've committed to this, and that's noble, right? Like,
thank you.
Because it's such a powerful thing, man. Dude, I talked to you in a conversation on a phone more than I have anybody, or probably the sum of everybody that I text. Within 2 years, other than my brother and my family.
And that's my point, like that's what I get it. Like I think I love the platform. I even told my wife when I first started doing podcasts, I was like, if Crazy Face Uno doesn't work, I don't think I'm going to stop doing podcasts, like it's just fun. And maybe it won't be at the pace that I'm going right now. This 3 a week is quite the pace, but I love podcasts. I love connecting with people, and I love this platform. I think it's really great.
Awesome, man. Yeah, no, I commend you, man. So, and both of you guys. And
thank you.
Keep doing it, man. So, and you'll find the rhythm, man. And you're doing such a great job already, man. So,
thank you.
Yeah, nothing but good will come, man. So,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Well, Alex, I want to just plug you again. If you guys are listening, check out the Maple House Guest and Inn. Did I say it right?
Yep, you did.
Check that out. Go follow them. Like their page on Facebook. Follow their page on Instagram. Check out those pictures. This following and liking it feels maybe shallow, but it's actually really important, and it's really helpful for people in the situation, and in the scenario that you are in. And so I would really encourage everybody listening to go do that. It means more, and it's helpful in more ways than you maybe understand or know.
For sure.
And like those pictures as they come up, and help them out. And if you're interested in Airbnb or renting the place out, reach out to Alex. If you need another connection, you can always reach out to me, and I'll be more than willing to send that link or direct you in the right way. Sure. Alex, do you have anything you want to leave us with and say before you go?
Oh man, I just want, thank you for the opportunity to speak, man, and to hear a little bit about what's going on in your life, man. It's encouraging to me to hear, kind of similar journeys, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Same.
And just kind of going through and being able to trust, like you said, yourself in ways that, somebody else is going through it, then it's easier, man. So I appreciate that. And
100%.
I'm excited for you, man. Yeah, I'll share this, man, and make sure that everybody that I know hears this podcast and
awesome.
Knows
Thank you so much.
The work that you're doing, man. So
I appreciate that. a lot. Well, as we close things out, guys, just remember, do good, make a difference. Check out our online store. We've got some mugs up there for sale. If you want to support Crazy Face Uno, there's also ways for you to donate and to help us out here. Appreciate you all for listening. Thanks again. I love you so much. Peace.